Anthony, a big welcome on our program.
Thank you for being here.
No, it's a privilege. It's Cape Town. I'll come back any day. Before we get to your foundation and what you're really doing as a CEO in this foundation, just a bit of background. Your first job ever, what was that?
The first job I can remember was actually as a student. I signed up for Dialer Pizza. So I would jump into my car and go and deliver pizzas. But I can still remember as clear as day that first moment when you got given that lump of cash that you'd earned for that day. And it really was a great introduction for me as to how actually effort creates reward.
And were you thinking business even as a young man? In your mind?
My father had been in business, and so he was a big role model, and so I wanted to go in that route. I did a business science, qualified as a chartered accountant. Business was where I saw the future.
So just like from there, how did you end up being the CEO of the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation?
Yeah, it was quite a big shift. So I had done all that financial qualification, was working in London with one of the banks there, doing corporate finance. And then actually was back in South Africa for a few months on a secondment with the bank. And during that time became aware of the extent of the orphan crisis in this country. It was just a normal evening. We went to a picnic at the Johannesburg Country Club, and there were these row of young children watching, and found out later that they were from a local orphanage. And a little while later went to visit, and I was actually remarkably moved by that moment of just spending time with these children and realizing that how were we going to be a great country if 2 million children at that stage didn't know what it meant to have a mother or father. And so suddenly, having thought that finance and economic models was the answer, realized that was meaningless if we didn't solve this orphan crisis. And so over a long story, but over time we got together, a group of us in London, and started something called the Starfish Foundation, which was to raise funds and resources for the orphan generation in South Africa. And then initially that was very much volunteer. Over time that built momentum and had to make a bigger decision as to how important was this really. And so took a decision that made my parents a bit upset at the time to resign from merchant banking and to volunteer full-time to go into the Valley of a Thousand Hills, to the very epicenter of the orphan crisis, to really have a chance of making the Starfish Foundation having a significant impact. And did that for a number of years, and then had the remarkable opportunity of a phone call from Mr. Gray. And he described what he wanted to do with this foundation, and it was a very easy decision to say I'd love to be a part of that.
And it became a worldwide phenomenon. If I think of Bill Gates, I'm thinking Warren Buffett, where they realized at the end of the day, you just life's going to end, and you're sitting with billions. And they started this whole thing of people just letting go. But I've also added Alan Gray. That was his vision, to say, we're building this company, but at the end of the day, to be able to give money away is the ultimate goal. So to explain to us exactly what changed in Alan Gray to be able to start just funding like this initiative.
Yeah, well, Alan is remarkable in that from the very beginning of Alan Gray Limited, before he knew whether it was even going to be a success, he was clear that the excess or the super profits that might be achieved by this business wouldn't go into making the shareholders ridiculously wealthy. It would go into benefiting society. And really, he sees business in its most positive sense as being that continuum. You start by serving a few customers, you do well, and then it grows, and then you extend beyond that to greater reach. But ultimately, you can serve society through that impact. And so that's been a part of his philosophy from the very beginning. And part of it also just to really understand that actually Alan would say that he's a massive supporter of capitalism and the business system or the free market system of enterprise, and it's really had a massive impact. But actually there's some problems with it, and if it's not done properly and correctly, it increases levels of inequality and so on. And so he would actually say that it's beholden on people like himself and maybe Bill Gates and others for the sustainability of the free market system. They've been, in a sense, over-rewarded for the risk and the effort that they've put in, and so they have to invest into the system to and neutralize some of those inequalities that have been produced. So he feels it's almost an obligation of his part to be doing this.
Most CEOs, you're there to make money for shareholders. Now you're sitting in a position yourself, having access to really big funds to use for to better people's lives. That must be an amazing, satisfactory job.
Yeah, I think at times we're driven by success, but over the longer term we realize that success is fleeting, but significance is something that is really more valuable and more enduring. And so I feel very privileged and fortunate to be in a position where we believe that what we're doing on a daily basis really matters. It's work that's significant for the future of the country and for the individuals that we're involved with. So.
How would you use that money? Where's your focus point with the funds that's in your hands?
So really what we are trying to do is to address make a contribution to the issue of unemployment and inequality in South Africa by fostering and cultivating a future cohort of high-impact entrepreneurs that can create jobs and can be expressing their business values in a way that serves the common good of society, not just their own selfish interest. And so we select up to 100 of these individuals every year at a very early stage, at the end of high school, and then we have this whole system, including putting them in the top universities and other training and curriculum and mentorship and other support that develops that and cultivates that entrepreneurial potential, so that in the future they can be the titans of industry that can create jobs and transform the economy that we need in this country.
If you're stopped like on the street and a guy tells you, "I'm an entrepreneur, just give me one piece of advice," what's that first piece of advice?
Yeah, I think the standard one is that you really have to believe in the purpose of what you're doing. I think if we look at some of the more successful startups, there's a purpose greater than just profit behind what they're doing. They've seen something that stirs them deeply, and they're passionate. They actually almost, it has to be financially sustainable. But if that's the driving purpose behind their business, I don't believe it will be successful in the long term. So my first response is this something that is really core to who you are, and this is what you want to dedicate yourself to? You're going to be spending not just 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours at a minimum in this. Is this actually what you want to do?
And then being in South Africa, being in Africa, are you still hopeful? Because we're in a stage in South Africa, everybody's a bit worried on all levels, whether it's in finance, if it's property, with the poverty, with education. What keeps you positive about South Africa?
Yeah, there are challenges, but we've just come out of our annual event where we bring all of our students. We have about 300 of our candid Alan Gray Fellows that are still at university before they go on to their careers. And whenever I'm feeling negative or down about this country, I just go and spend time with those candid Fellows or Alan Gray Fellows, because they show a glimpse of what's possible in the future. There's a level of diversity and competence and confidence and imagination that is remarkable. The ideas that they come up with, the passion that they have to do things differently, to not accept the way things are at the moment. I get very, very excited by that. We have at the moment already we have 300 of these Alan Gray Fellows that are in various aspects of society. They've started in excess of 30 businesses to the value of 600 million rand. I mean, these are the sorts of things that are going to start happening as we invest in the potential of our youth in this country.
And I know Mr. Gray is very private. All these years, a very, very private person. And it's kind of the same thing. You're not going to really promote these guys in media. You're doing amazing work. Or is there a plan to now and they say, listen, this is one of our guys?
Yeah, Alan has always worked off the basis of judge us by what we do, not what we say. So he'd much rather that our actions would speak louder than our words. But I think we are in a situation in this country where we need hope, we need inspiration, and so we're not going to push it. But if people want to tell the stories of our fellows, we're very open to that. And there are a number of them that have achieved remarkable success. And I think it's good for people to know that is possible, because otherwise we get caught in that negative spiral, and we don't need to be.
And then a last business question, just for the business guys out there, explain quickly, like with the Orbis Foundation, but it's also linked to the Alan and Jill Gray Foundation, the whole funding shift that came, just how they structure that to benefit other people.
Yeah. So firstly, here in South Africa, we're a foundation. We're funded by a percentage of Alan Gray Limited's profits every year. So we get 5% of their pre-tax profits to do this. What's also important about our structure is that the overall vision includes not just what we do in terms of developing this human capital, but also we realize that future entrepreneurs need access to capital. And so what Allan Gray Limited did was a very visionary way of setting up their empowerment structures. And they sold 20% of their shareholding to a trust we set up. And that trust, its role in life is to be a captive source of funding for the Allan Gray Fellows. So it's true empowerment. It's growing future entrepreneurs rather than just that shareholding being given to an industry partner or someone to benefit in that way. So that's the existing structure. What Allan did at the beginning of this year was take his philanthropy to a whole new level, and not just him, his family. And it's remarkable how much support he has to do this from his entire family. And essentially what's happened is that they've put the entire shareholding that they own, the controlling interest in Allan Gray Limited, plus their entire ownership of Orbis, the international asset manager that he started 30 years ago. And all of that now goes into an Allan and Jewel Gray Foundation. And it does two things. It ensures that there's succession and continuity in terms of the ownership of the businesses, that they're never under pressure from shareholders to achieve short-term outcomes, and they can be consistent in their investment philosophy and achieve the best outcomes for their clients. And also the economic value of all of that shareholding goes to philanthropy. There's no direct link at the moment to the existing foundation here in South Africa, but the scale of the philanthropy that he's initiated is truly remarkable.
So, Anthony, my last comments will be that I'm jealous of you because you live in Cape Town and you work for Allan Gray. Thank you so much for the work you guys are doing. I think it is remarkable and it's changing history.
Sure.
So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.